So I'm just going to do my intro and then I'm going back down. I'll leave you to it, yeah?
Yeah, so what are you doing? What are you saying?
Oh man, I've got so much to do. I've got Kiara's mocking.
No, not that. What are you saying?
What do you mean?
Your introduction.
Oh, what am I saying in the introduction?
You're just saying who you are, blah, blah, blah.
I'm just saying welcome to the event, and then I'm going to
Okay, guys, right, okay, welcome to your second Student Experience Day. It's hard to believe that it's near the end of the semester already and it's passed quite quickly. So I think without further ado, I'm going to get the course leaders and the assistant head of school just to welcome you once again and say a few words. Thank you.
Hi, can you hear me, everyone? I want to say hello and welcome to the second Experience Day for first year undergraduates tourism and events. And well done for making it to week 10. We're almost at the end of term. You've done incredibly well to get this far, and I hope that you find today's session useful, both as a way of catching up with some of your classmates, finding out what's going on campus, but also listening to our excellent speakers. And thank you very much to Ian for organising the programme. And as always, to our team of assistants helping to broadcast this on YouTube. And hello to everybody watching on YouTube as well. Just a couple of things to note before we start, and apologies that this isn't quite connected to today's talks, but just please pay attention over the next week or so to your emails. There will be messages coming through from the university about plans for the Christmas vacation and returning to campus. Please do pay close attention to them. We'll make sure that we communicate these messages, but obviously lockdown and the additional provisions being made for Christmas just make things slightly more complicated, but it should make your lives a bit easier actually to be going home or spending some time with friends and family if that's what you want to do. So for now, let me hand over to Ilaria next, and I hope that today is as useful as I think it will be. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Helen, and hi everyone. and welcome to this second Student Experience Day. I just wanted to take the chance of having you all here to remind you of some of the opportunities that the university is offering at the moment. So first of all, I should say that you've done really well to almost complete your first semester university. We're all very proud of you, and we know that in the circumstances it's been more challenging than usual. And we realize also that it's been an issue for you to be able to engage in your studies while struggling sometimes to communicate with other students, to really get to know students on your course. So I just wanted to remind you of some of the opportunities that the university is offering to give you a better chance at having a happy and healthy life at university. From a mental well-being perspective, and they offer lots of services including one-to-one meetings if you want to have a chat with a counselor and talk about any personal issues that you might have. But also they're organizing some online workshops that will give you a chance to talk about some of the challenges that you might be having and learning new well-being strategies in a group. So rather than talking, so you have the opportunity to do one-to-one meetings, but you also have opportunities to join group meetings so that you get to chat with other students at the same time while learning about well-being, mental well-being, and strategies that you can use to feel better. Also, there are also other services that the university offers that you might find useful. For example, financial advice if you have financial worries, health services. So you should look on the university website. If you look on the support and services section of the university's website, you find all the information you need about these services, including the counseling, workshops and financial advice and all of that. Secondly, there is the student union. The student union is the union of students of our university, and they're also running a series of activities to help students get in touch with each other at this time. So one activity that they're running, one program that they're running, it's called Together in Lockdown. And it's a support campaign for students where you get a chance to meet and engage with other students. So I think they will, based on where you're located, they will create some friendship groups or support groups and put you in touch and organize activities. So it's something worth considering if you want to get an opportunity to engage a bit more with university life, even though you are taking most of your course online. Also, again, the student union, they're also running a social support program, which is called UWSU Active. And that's a program to help students be active and do sports and physical activities. So you can find more about this on the student union website. So you can just Google University of Westminster Student Union and you will find it and all the information about these services. The third opportunity that I wanted to talk about is Pass Week. So if you haven't seen information about Pass Week, you should definitely look in your email and you will find information about Pass Week there. I'm also going to send a message using the Understanding Tourism Blackboard site later on. But Pass Week is not something that is specific for online or specific for the pandemic period, but it's something that the university organizes every semester, every year. So it's something that happens every year. And it's a week which happens every semester in which you get a chance to enroll in free workshops to learn techniques and strategies to cope with your exams, with your final assignments, and in the end of your studies with your dissertation better. So you can attend workshops on revision and time management, how to deal with online exams, dissertation writing, using the library, referencing, and also mindfulness and meditation. So this is all happening next week. So again, check on your email information about past week, and I will also send you the information later by email as well. So they are very useful workshops, so I recommend that you try and register for whichever activities you're interested in. So these are the three main groups of opportunities that I wanted to remind you. So the counseling team, the student union, and Past Week. They're all very useful resources, so you should look them up. Finally, just wanted to remind you that we have no Understanding Tourism session this week because you had the Experience Day today, but we start again next week with the usual Friday session and the recorded sessions in advance, and that's again with Stroma about tourism impacts. And then also I wanted to remind you for Understanding Tourism that the final week we do have a session entirely dedicated to the online exam. So if you're starting to think about the exam and worry about what it's going to be like and how to revise and so on, I just want to confirm that there is going to be a session entirely dedicated to the exam in week 12. Okay, and you can now view the provisional date for the exam on the provisional exam timetable, which is online. Okay, so that's all, I think. I'm going to pass the microphone to Claire. But again, to everyone, well done getting through your first semester. And I look forward to seeing you when we do the exam revision session in week 12. Bye-bye. Claire.
Thank you, Ilaria. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to your second course experience day. This morning, I've been thinking about when I was in your position, nearing the end of the first semester of my course, a very, very long time ago, I should say. And it was a completely different world then in so many ways. And I think that you should be so proud of yourselves about the way that you've coped with the challenges of 2020. This year hasn't been easy for any of us at all, but for you, I think it's been particularly challenging. So well done for taking the plunge of starting a new course, meeting new people, and embracing with enthusiasm a completely new way of learning and collaborating with the others on your course. Next year, things will improve, and you'll be well placed to further develop the skills and knowledge that you need for your future. Ilaria has mentioned lots of really useful services that the university offers, so please do look into them and use those services. But I also wanted to remind you to keep in touch with your personal tutor. So if you haven't had a recent tutorial with your personal tutor, please make an appointment with them and have a chat about how things have gone so far. And they can point you in the direction of any support that might be useful for you. And finally, I just want to say, enjoy the day today. Well done again. And over to James, back in the classroom.
Welcome to today's Experience Day. I'm standing in for Lindsay Hamford. She's got toothache, so she can't be with us. But I'm the co-course leader on the events management stream. So I wanted to talk to you today. I wanted to talk to you today about what are you going to do over the holidays? Because I think we all deserve a break. I know I deserve a break. And I think all of you guys in your first semester deserve a break. So I've got some ideas for you. What we've seen over the last 6 months or 8 months is we've seen lots of innovation in the tourism and events industry. So we've seen lots of companies have had to pivot from live experiences into digital experiences, just like we've done with you guys in this room today. And I think it's really important that we embrace this new kind of normal. And we still don't know what the next normal is going to be like either. But I thought, over the holidays, why don't you guys have some fun? So I've got written down a few ideas here for you. And you can easily Google this to find out some of the things that you can do. So a lot of destinations have actually developed online 360 and virtual reality tours of the destination. So you can go to those, and do you remember the break that we had in the first experience day? There was some links to Machu Picchu, to the Great Wall of China, and what we're seeing is more destinations coming online with these kinds of virtual experiences for you to explore. So you can have a little family gathering and you can take a walk around Machu Picchu, or you can take a walk around Paris or Berlin. So everybody's trying to keep their tourism product alive and make sure that they can maybe induce some demand later on by showing their destinations online. We also see, like, one of the great British traditions is pantomime. And obviously we can't go to theatres during the lockdown. So what a lot of companies have done is that they've actually created online pantomimes. They've used normal video. They'll have live actors, or they might use virtual reality. But if you did a search on Google for virtual pantomime, you can go and watch something that's going to be fun with you and your families. The other thing that you can do as well, there's lots of virtual Christmas markets online as well. So if you want to see some of the traditional German Christmas markets, I did a Google search for German Christmas market, and there's quite a few tours you can take. There's also online shops that have lots of Christmas stuff in them as well, so you can go and visit one of those markets. There's a load of stuff out there, and I can't go through a whole list of things of what you can do. But if you just say, put in virtual holiday experience, virtual Christmas market, virtual pantomime, virtual destination, there's so many things that you can do. Or simply you can jump in your car with your family and have a little late night drive and go and see the lights of London or the lights of Paris or wherever you may come from. Hong Kong, for example, there's amazing Christmas lights up at the moment. So there's lots of things for you guys to do and take a well-deserved break. But don't forget, you still have some coursework to hand in January too, huh? Okay. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand back to Ian so he can MC the rest of the day. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, James. Right, okay, so we've got our first speaker. This was done by interview from Hamburg in Germany. We've got Irina Graf. Now, Irina Graf's actually very well known mice blogger. Now, mice blogging is basically, or what mice is meetings, incentives, conferences, and exhibitions. Okay, so she's going to tell you a bit about what she does, share some of the experiences she's been doing while she's been blogging. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Irina. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, right. Okay, hi Irina. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me this evening. I appreciate it's really late in Germany, but it's the time zone difference and etc. etc. So just really for the students, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself, please, and what you do?
Yeah, so I'm the founder of an event management blog, which is called the Mice blog, and I also have a second community on Twitter, which is called Event Planners Talk. The Mice blog is a source of information, education, inspiration for the global event community, specifically this, agencies and corporate event professionals and associations. And I report about destinations, about trends. I interview agency or corporate event professionals about their job and how to stay ahead of the trends in the MICE industry. The Event Planners Talk is a community on Twitter, which I started in 2000. So the blog started in 2011. The Event Planners Talk started in 2014 as a weekly Twitter chat, and each week, each Monday, I have a set of questions about a specific topic, and the community comes together and discusses it. And 1 year later, 2015, I also started organizing events. So these were live events, and now with the pandemic, these are online events. So yeah, so these are my two business areas.
Excellent, thank you for that. Can you just sort of tell us about your studies and how you came about choosing an events career?
Yeah, so I studied hotel management and tourism in Switzerland, and as part of the studies, I had to do an internship in a kind of an administrative operational role. It couldn't be just like in service or hotel reception. It had to be more like operational. So I found an internship in Munich in a small events agency, and we had really amazing projects like taking fans to a football game in Munich, or organizing an exhibition like from the beginning to the end. And I really fell in love with this industry. And like when I started tourism studies, I wasn't actually aware that you can study events full time. And I was in Munich back then, and I found out that you can actually study for a degree full time. And I found that Regent's University London offers a full scholarship. It was a competition, so I applied. I've submitted a case study, and my topic was the future of events. I came to London to pitch it among the 6 finalists, and I won the full scholarship. So when my internship finished in September, I came to London and I started my studies again. It was 2011, and that was also like the year that I started my blog, and I developed and built my blog alongside my studies.
Excellent. Oh, thank you for that. Thank you. Okay, so why did you choose business travel, tourism area focus for your career?
Yeah, so this is kind of me. This is my personality, because I was born in Russia, I lived in Israel, I lived in Switzerland, I lived in Germany. Then I came to the UK, and like kind of this business environment, business travel was always like part of my kind of lifestyle and my interest and my passion. And then being at Regent's University, it's a very international university, so we kind of also had this international focus, and we had some modules that also covered international destination management. We had to go, for example, to visit the World Travel Market and talk to destinations. So like being in central London really gave me this opportunity to discover it and like get to know it. And also another aspect that we had is actually we had seminars at different destinations. So for example, first semester we went to Liverpool, and we went to Manchester, we went to Edinburgh, and there we had workshops, and we saw the venues, and all this experience I also shared on my blog. And sorry, we went to Newcastle, we didn't go to Manchester, yeah, but then I went to Manchester separately. But yeah, so basically it was like such an amazing experience. Like for example, Newcastle, like we went there and I was like so amazed, like that you can bring events there. Or Liverpool, we learned how it developed, like from how it built its image, and it was just so fascinating. I was like totally fascinated by this. And then a lot of destinations, like global convention bureaus, they have their headquarters in London. So if you go to the Confex, if you go to the meeting show, you get to know the representatives, and then kind of, you know, the pieces of the puzzles, they come together, and you understand this landscape of destination management.
Excellent. Well, it's quite interesting because I'm from Newcastle originally. So
Yeah.
yeah. So can you just sort of, what inspired you to start writing your blog?
Yeah, so basically the industry itself. I remember like my very first blog was when I went to a recruitment event of Kempinski. I was still in tourism back then, so it was like how this event was organized, like being at this Kempinski hotel airport in Munich, and then we had a site visit and like kind of meeting all the general managers of the hotels and talking to them, and like all these cultural aspects and like the opportunities, and like that you can apply for a job like in Moscow or in Mauritius. And it really was inspiring, so I decided to write about it. And then other blog articles were about work that I did for this agency. For example, it was a concert for, I remember, for Take That, or for some German artists. I mean, of course, it's not business related, but that was like the very, very beginning of my blog. But it's just like these experiences, and like just the new experiences really inspired me to share it, like to share it on a platform which is more business focused and more niche and more targeted, because I knew, okay, if I just share the photos on Facebook, it's my friends who are not interested on like in events. So I kind of said, okay, I want that the blog will give me this platform to connect with other event professionals from around the world who I don't know, and I can grow my network. That was my kind of thinking back then.
Okay, excellent. So you've talked about the blog there. Can you tell me how the Mice blog works at the various destinations? Can you give us a couple of examples, for example?
Yeah, so basically what I do now, back when I started in 2011, this was not a term yet, but now it's called influencer marketing. So that's what I do. A destination, for example, contacts me, they want a press coverage. And then I offer them this coverage about a destination, which is a blog article, which more like also the traditional press offers this. But then I also offer extensive social media coverage, which I think makes influencers or content creators, independent content creators, more attractive for a destination to work with, because they reach new audience, new demographics, and they use new media channels. So for example, a destination will contact me. They usually, of course, pre-corona, want me to come to the destination and to write about their fam trip, or if they go to an exhibition like IMEX, they might want me to be on the stand for the 3 days and tell about like what's happening on the stand, and just to create a buzz around it. So these are two main areas that the destination contact me for. So coverage of a fam trip or an exhibition, yeah.
Okay, that sort of leads quite nicely on my next question. Do you have to do a lot of traveling for your blog, and is there a particular season for it?
Yeah, it just before, I think I just forgot to respond to your case studies.
Yes.
You wanted examples. So I mentioned that I started the blog in 2011, but then I was also I studied. And it really kind of started as a commercial business model around 2015, 2016. And my first biggest project, 2016, end of 16, 17, was working with Atout France. It's the National Convention Bureau, the French National Convention Bureau. And they asked me to help them promote their presence at IMEX. So leading to IMEX, I created a social media strategy for them. I also took over their accounts, and I shared on Twitter and on LinkedIn. And then during IMEX, I was on their stand, and I was reporting about what's happening, what's going on, and all the news. There were about 30 partners on the stand, so I would go and speak to each partner and ask about their new openings, or some ideas for what you can do at their destination. And then I will share this all on social media. So this is one example. Another example is Esbjerg from last year. Esbjerg is in Denmark, and they wanted to kind of relaunch the destination because they haven't been active on the mice market for a long time. And last year they wanted to relaunch it, so they invited me as a blogger to report about the destination, to create visual material, and share what's so exciting and unique about the destination. Yeah, so these are two examples, and later I can tell you more, give you more examples. Yeah.
So I guess you've sort of answered the question a little bit, because obviously the question was, do you do a lot of traveling? And I suppose the second part of the question is more appropriate now. I mean, is there a particular time of year? I mean, obviously it's difficult right now with COVID, but is there a particular season for this type of blogging, in mice blogging and traveling?
Yes and no. So there are the fixed dates in the calendar, like IMEX, for example, that it's happening, and you will be there. And also about let's say September, October, November, it's when the fam trips usually take place. These are kind of the fixed dates, but then there are always other dates which either I'm invited individually, so it will be a date that just fits both of us. It might be around a specific event. So, for example, I worked with Calgary Convention Bureau, and there was an event in July which is called the Calgary Stampede. And it's a purely leisure event, but they have the corporate hospitality as part of it. So they invited a group of event professionals in July, which is kind of a high season for leisure travelers. Yeah, so, and like for MICE, it's kind of a very low season, July, August, it's the summer holidays. So there are high seasons, but there are always exceptions.
Yeah, sure. I mean, obviously you've alluded to sort of one destination you've been to, but could you sort of share with us, like, you know, some of the brilliant places you've managed to experience through business travel and obviously through the MICE industry?
Some of the unique experiences and destinations.
Yeah, the places you've visited.
Yeah. So yeah, I think like some of the really there were very surprising destinations like Esbjerg or Calgary, which are not Barcelona and not London and not Las Vegas, which you might not think about it. I didn't even know about Esbjerg before I was contacted by them. So I think now there is a very big trend towards going a bit off the beaten path, going to second-tier destinations and exploring really the unknown. So these experiences, they were very, very unique, and I remember them a lot. Then, sorry.
That's all
right. Then, also a very unique experience was with the Monaco Convention Bureau. I took part in their campaign "Business is Green," and it was like high-end production. So I was just in their kind of commercial spot as a blogger. So yeah, I was invited there, and we had 2 days of shooting, and with makeup and stylist and all that. It was quite exciting and very unique. So yeah, Monaco is definitely very very memorable experience.
Excellent. So say, what tips would you give students if they were interested in becoming bloggers, and what kinds of skills would you think they need to develop?
Yeah, so I think most important is really to find your niche, your passion and your interest, because this will be noticed. It's something that really it's like this burning desire that you want to write about, or you want to make a video about it. So this is definitely, it's a must-have. And then second one, it's writing skills. It's if you want to have a blog, or if you want to build your presence on social media, you have to have very strong writing skills. Right now there is a lot of discussions. Okay, do I need really writing, because now it's everything goes into video, or like bite-sized content on TikTok and Instagram. Do we need to work more on photography? The answer is yes, but like really the basic is writing, because that's also what we do now at the university, that we write academic papers, we know how to reference, we know how to interview people. This is very, very important. So when you get it right, then just build on this with all the other skills like video and photos, etc.
Excellent. And what do you sort of see the future? Obviously, it's a difficult time right now, but sort of just to sum up, where do you see the current situation with obviously the MICE industry and its impact from COVID?
Yeah, so I am still keeping in touch with my clients. I've been contacted by new clients as well, who are looking how to innovate in the digital space, because all of them, they can host it, like they host their kind of virtual events or hybrid events, like in a very small group, like 5-6 people, and they would stream it. They will invite an expert, and they will have an educational session. And then this event still needs coverage, so be it a blog coverage or social media. So there are destinations that are exploring this virtual option. So for me as a blogger, that's very interesting, that's very attractive, that I can continue working with my clients also in the current climate until I can travel again. So there's definitely interest on this front. And then I also host my own events. Mm-hmm. Like I did a hackathon, for example, and I did a digital festival, which were like fully kind of social media based events. And that was for me very important, kind of to keep in touch, to keep visible, to stay active, to communicate with my audience. Because I think during crisis, it's very important to stay visible. It's not like, okay, I have a break now, and then I'll reappear in 1 year when everything is over. No, you actually now, the people who are being active now, they will be, I think, the biggest winners when things start again. I know now for the destinations, it's very difficult because they don't have any income. They don't have congresses booked. They can't, they don't have hotels booked. And I know that the cities are most affected. The resorts, they still have like leisure travel, but the cities are mostly affected. And I think the destinations, they shouldn't like stop promoting themselves. In contrary, they should stay visible. They say, okay, we are here, we are doing, we are keeping these corona measures. We know how to offer like a safe and healthy environment to our attendees. We're on top of everything because the convention bureau, they are like the destination marketing organization, and they need to ensure that the business comes back to the destination when the corona kind of, we have like a new normal and can travel again. So yeah, this is very, very important, and they just need to stay visible because the competition is also very high. It's like it's incredible how many destinations are there, and they're all kind of fighting for their kind of spot in the media, in the exhibitions. So one thing that a destination can do is at least be active on their own social media channels and like show presence. Yeah.
So just really within that context, do you think you tell the students to develop their IT skills, their social media skills, their sort of online presence in different ways is a key factor now for them to move forward?
Absolutely, absolutely. Develop IT skills in the way that you understand the platform. You know how to use, let's say, if it's a Cvent or Microsoft or Zoom or Hotme or InEvent or whatever platform it is. Know how to use them, understand it. Social media, it's extremely important. Like understand like the format of the photos, like which format goes into Instagram feed, which format goes into Instagram story, how TikTok works. Like try to be confident on camera. I know it's not easy, so it's a process for me. It also was a process. Write articles. Go network on LinkedIn, grow your network, because right now it's like just the perfect time to grow network. And you can just do it by kind of attending some webinars from the industry, seeing who is there, connecting, reaching out, and just, you know, like kind of building. And it's a low season. It's a low period right now. Yes, there is some business, but we're still not traveling anywhere. So it's time to build a network and reskill and upskill ourselves.
That's good ethos to have. Okay, well that's brilliant. Well, thank you, Irina, because it's I know it's late in Hamburg right now. Okay, and I'm sure the students will have got quite a lot out of that today. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me. Yeah, and I would love to keep in touch. So
yeah, absolutely.
To connect with me on Instagram, it's the Mice blog. And TikTok is the Mice blog, and Twitter is the Mice blog, and LinkedIn is Irina Graf. So yeah, keep in touch. If the students have any questions, also feel free to get in touch, and I'll be happy to share my experience. Thank you.
Okay, guys, I hope you got quite a lot out of Irina there. It was quite interesting talking to her and finding out, but I think the most important thing, which she closed with right at the end there, she's very receptive for you guys and obviously those people online at the moment to get in touch with her. Mice industry is quite big. People don't know too much about it. I've just recently written an academic paper on that area and actually how it's being used as a vehicle to employ students and what the industry thinks about that. So it's really, really important. Okay, that's our first speaker out the way now, if I dare I use that word. We've now got a break, nice break this time, of 25 minutes. So if you guys can be back in the room by 5:02. Okay, and then we've got our next speaker on from that one. Okay, brilliant. sorry. That's all right, don't worry. That's right. I'll just wait for Kevin. Folks, right. Right, I'm back on camera. Okay, guys, right. Okay, so we're going to our next session now. This is going to be Kiara Arfis and Sarah Hiscock. Kiara is one of our senior lecturers here who will be teaching you at some point during your academic journey. And also, Sarah Hiscock. Now, Sarah is the Student Mobility Officer. And as I was saying earlier on, they're going to share about international opportunities here at the university whilst and during your study. So without further ado, I'll hand them over to them.
Hello everybody, I'm Chiara Orefice. Some of you know me already. I am senior lecturer in events and I have been in touch with a few of you already. Today I'm here to talk to you in my role of exchange coordinator alongside my colleague Sarah. And for the next about 20-25 minutes, we're going to introduce to you the international opportunities that are available for you starting from next year. So Sarah will start. She will introduce herself and the program, and then I will take over in the second half to explain in a bit more detail the partnerships and where you can actually go and study. And if there is time, we will also see if we can take some questions. Otherwise, I will make provision to answer questions at a later stage. Sarah, over to you.
Thanks, Chiara. Hi, everyone. So as Chiara has mentioned, I'm Sarah Hiscock, and I work for the Student Mobility team. So we're the team within the university that helps you to go abroad and have experiences abroad. So I'm going to start my presentation and yeah, hope you enjoy. Okay, so just a brief overview of the content. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about COVID-19 and Brexit and kind of what implications that may have for international travel and the experiences you can have. Then the benefits of spending some time abroad, touch briefly on the application, and then costs and funding available, and then some short-term mobility options that are available to you also. Okay, so obviously because of the current COVID-19 pandemic, you'll all be more than aware that this obviously is causing some issues with travelling, but the University of Westminster is taking this all obviously very serious and have measures for health and safety for all students and staff. We are encouraging all students to apply for international experience abroad in 2021-22. So, for example, exchange opportunities. We're encouraging people to apply as usual, but just bear in mind that obviously we can't be sure of what the situation is going to be in September when it comes to the time for you taking part in these exchanges. So you just have to kind of bear that in mind and be prepared for maybe a bit of flexibility just in case maybe the exchanges don't end up going ahead. But hopefully with the vaccine and everything, things should all be good to go for September. But all cases for exchanges will be considered individually, and we'll have to look at kind of the travel rules and everything to the country that you want to go to. All students must follow the FCO travel advice and make sure that you also follow the University of Westminster advice as well. So we will keep you updated with any kind of developments that you need to know about your exchange should you apply. And at present, all students must complete a risk assessment and have it approved prior to making any travel arrangements. And that will likely still be the case come September. And just a few things on Brexit. So you might be wondering whether kind of things such as the Erasmus funding, which I'll talk about a little bit later, whether it will still be available. It will still be available for next academic year. Again, we'll keep you updated with any information relating to your exchange in regards to Brexit. And just one thing to consider is European Health Insurance Card is no longer valid from January 1st, 2021. So this just might affect you if you choose to do an exchange in a European city. Okay, so let's talk a bit about the benefits of going abroad. So if you spend some time abroad during your university, you develop a number of amazing skills that can kind of increase your employability once you graduate. These include intercultural awareness, so a lot of companies are looking for students with this skill these days. You can learn some language skills, so if you study in France or Spain, you can meet some local friends and develop your language skills there. You can also build up your tolerance, your confidence, independence, adaptability, problem solving skills, and you can also learn a lot about yourself. On top of this, you'll be experiencing new cultures, making new friends, and of course having a great time and having lots of fun. So all of these skills, when it comes to applying for jobs, these kind of skills can set you apart from other graduates who maybe don't have this international experience. Just a few statistics here. So these just show that students who do have some study or work abroad experience during their degree, they have a higher chance to achieve a first-class honours degree, and also more likely to have higher earnings upon graduation as well. Okay, so where can you go? So all the different courses across the universities, they have different exchange partners, so not all courses can go to the same places. So for tourism, you can apply for any of these exchange partners listed here. So I think Chiara is going to be talking a little bit more about these in details a little bit later. But as you can see here, for tourism with business, tourism planning and management, and tourism management, you've got these ones in Australia, Hong Kong, Malta, and the US, and similar ones for tourism and events management as well. So this information can be found on Global Opportunities, which is a section on Blackboard, which you all should be enrolled in. Okay, so I'm just going to touch on the application process. So applications will open in January 2021, and we'll send out a notification on Blackboard, and you'll just have to complete an Engage form. I'm just going to touch on this briefly because I believe me and Chiara might do another session for students who are interested in applying, so we'll go into more detail then. But basically, it's worth doing your research prior to applying. So look at what modules the host university offers, look at the cost of living, the different language, cost of food and housing, and kind of the visa rules and things like that, just so you have an idea of the reality of what it would mean for if you were to take part in an exchange. We ask you to choose 2 institutions, so a first choice and second choice that you'd like to apply to, and we ask that you do make an appointment with Chiara as your academic exchange coordinator to talk about your suitability, and just to make sure you're aware of what an exchange would entail, and just to make sure this is what you want to do, and just don't miss the application deadline. So that will be at some point at the end of February. Okay, so on top of the exchange opportunities that are kind of embedded within your degree, there's also a number of short-term mobility opportunities as well that our department manages. These include summer schools, internships, volunteering, and field trips. So these, so the field trips will more be managed by your department, but the summer schools, internships, and volunteering, we kind of promote a range of these as well. So if you think kind of an exchange for a whole term isn't suitable for you, you can look at maybe some of these options, usually take place over the summer. Now, we promote these opportunities on Engage, which is the career service website. So if you search under the international location setting, you can find a number of different volunteering roles and internships on Engage, and also we post them onto the Global Opportunity section of Blackboard as well. Okay, so just to talk a little bit about funding that's available to you, and again, we can go into more detail about this during the application workshop if me and Chiara put one of those on. But basically, Erasmus Plus is available to you if you're doing an exchange in Europe. So yeah, if you're doing a study exchange, this is like it's externally run program, so it's not. So we'll provide you with all the paperwork and everything to complete for this. And the amount of money that you get depends on the location that you're going to. You can find more information about this on our website, on the Study Abroad website. Yeah, so that's really great. So there was kind of a bit of concern with Brexit about whether or not this would still be going ahead, but for next academic year, it will definitely be available for you. So that's a fantastic fund for you if you are going to Europe. If you are going outside of Europe, so for the exchange options, if you decide to go to the US, you will be eligible to apply for the Distant Horizons Award. Now, this is supplied by the University of Westminster, and if you're going for a semester, you can apply for up to £1,000 for the semester. And yes, this is for countries outside of Europe. So if you're going to France or Malta, you won't be able to apply for this, but you will be able to apply for the Erasmus Fund instead. And so Distant Horizon Awards, this can be used for both exchanges, and this can also be used for short-term opportunities such as volunteering and things like that, as long as the activities are 5 days or longer. Again, there's more information about this on our website should you want to have a look. And then other funding sources. So these are more kind of applicable to the exchanges. Student Finance England has a maintenance, you continue getting your maintenance loan as usual, and there's also a grant available, so you might want to look into that. And also part-time jobs, so if you're doing an exchange, it might be worth looking into the rules and regulations of how many hours a week you can work on your student visa in that country. Okay, so I'm going to pass over to Chiara next, and she's going to talk to you a little bit more about kind of what the exchange programme involves and the different locations you can go to.
Your mic's muted.
You are allowed to study abroad in semester 1 of your next academic year. So that would be from September to December 2021. You are applying in January, end of January, February, but we need to start very early with the application process because it takes a little bit of time for the selection and then to actually nominate you to the partner institution. They will start actually writing to you towards the end of your first year. You need to have an average out of all the modules that you've studied of 55% or more to be able to be allowed to go and study abroad in September next year. Obviously, when you apply, you haven't actually completed your second semester modules, which is absolutely fine. We will base our decision on the results of the first semester, so make sure that you get very good grades in your first semester modules, and then we will review the nomination when we get your final results in June. As Sarah has mentioned, we will organize a further workshop with you. Probably it will be at the beginning of February, for those of you who are really seriously interested in applying, and we will take you through the application form. We will explain in detail how to select the modules at the partner institution, so they're really practical details. And then I will encourage you to actually book an appointment with me to discuss your destination and your module choice. It is very different, the module choice, even the number of modules that you're going to study is different depending on which partner institution you're going to study at. So we need to look at it individually, and I have to actually talk you through your options. And it's very, very important that you do not make any decisions about your module choice until you have spoken with me, because I have to sign it off. Okay, so you're not free to choose whatever you want, because I need to make sure that what you study abroad matches what is it that you would be studying if you were in London. Okay, so where can you go? Well, we have 2 partners in America. And here are some an overview of the possible costs that you would incur if you went to George Mason. George Mason is actually the partner that is most loved by our students. We do have students that go there every year. And some of them don't even want to come back to Westminster because they enjoy it so much. So this is a tried and tested partner that I always recommend to our students. Remember one thing regarding accommodation here, which is the fact that 99% you will have to share a room. But again, this is part of the exchange experience. So being in an accommodation with another student is part of the US university life in a sense. The other university is Madison. We have had this partner for a long, long time, but we haven't actually sent a student recently there, but it's open, it's available, and you can definitely choose to go there if you wanted to. I will be posting these slides on the study skills Blackboard as soon as we finish the presentation today. So you will be able to click on this link and to take a look at this blog from Matilda, who is a student from the tourism and events course, who was there a couple of years ago, and how much she actually loved the whole experience. We do ask you to blog and to send feedback to us from your experiences to share with other students. You can also go to Australia, to UTS in Sydney. Now, this is a slightly different time scale because the semester in Australia starts very, very early. It starts at the end of July, which means that you have to travel to Australia basically as soon as you get the results from the assessment boards, and we are sure that you've passed all your modules in London. So the turnaround time between when you get your results, when you get the offer from the Australian university, and when you have to travel is very tight. The term starts very early, but also ends very early. So by the end of November, you finished your studies, and what happens is that our students normally stay there for the month of December to travel around Australia and come back for the beginning of the second semester. This is an amazing university. Our students love it. You have to consider the costs though, because living in Sydney, the cost of life in Sydney is pretty high. So you have to think about accommodation, food, and all that. One of our students, the latest one that went there last year, she actually managed to work a little bit alongside studying at the university, and that helped with the cost. As you can see in this slide, we've got the budget. You can definitely apply for funding. So the distant horizon funding is perfect for actually traveling to Australia. Just remember that it is slightly more stressful because you have to really, really be on top of things in terms of sending the results to the Australian universities, because they won't send you the offer letter until they receive your results in June. So you have to be up for a little bit more stress in terms of the timings and traveling very, very soon after the end of term here in London. Hong Kong is again a very popular destination. We did have a few issues in the last year, unfortunately, not just because of COVID, but also because of the riots. So there has been a little bit of an issue because we had 2 students that were supposed to go last September, and unfortunately we couldn't send them because the university decided that for health and safety reasons we could not sign off the risk assessment for the students. But I would definitely encourage you to apply. It's an amazing cultural experience. You do get to study a little bit of Cantonese as well. It's a super cheap destination as well. And you get the option also to study modules that combine, for instance, doing business with China, marketing with China. So if you're interested in a future career in Far East Asia, this is definitely the place for you. And all the students that have come back from Hong Kong have reported that they had an amazing experience. But you have to be really, really open-minded because it's a very, very different country and a very, very different way of studying at university as well. Malta is the last one that I want to present to you. This partner is one of the best friends of our courses. We do exchange staff, student. We keep on coming and going from Malta. Malta has got the advantage of obviously being in Europe, so you can actually apply for the Erasmus grant, and overall the cost of living is quite reasonable. We do normally have always students incoming also from Malta, so if there is anyone, for instance, that is coming next semester, COVID allowing, I may actually be able to put you in touch with some students that are visiting from Malta. Malta has a strange system. You need to study a lot of modules with them, but they're very small ones. And we really need to tailor your study program for that. Usually the tourism and events students were not allowed to go to Malta up to last year, but in the very last year, academic year, they've actually introduced more events management modules. So there may be an option for all courses actually to go to Malta, which obviously makes it a little bit more competitive. And I know that a question that I'm getting quite a lot from students is, how competitive is the application process? Are there enough places for everybody? And the answer is we don't really know, because every year we have a very, very different number of students applying. Normally in the past, we have always managed to send abroad everybody that applied for an exchange. Maybe not to their first choice, and that's why Sarah has mentioned that you need to pick two choices. But usually we always try our best to make sure that everybody gets a place if they really, really want to go, which makes your application more important. But we're going to cover more of this when we organize our next workshop in end of January, beginning of February. So that's it. As far as we are concerned, this concludes our presentation. I don't know how we're doing with time, because we've started a bit later, and I don't know if we have 5 minutes for questions. So I am leaving it to Ian to decide if we take questions, if there are any first, and if we take questions at some other time. Can I carry on for 5 minutes?
Yeah, you can, Chiara. Yeah, that'll be brilliant. Okay, guys, thank you to Chiara and Sarah for sharing that this morning. It actually gave me an insight about America. I didn't realize that was there as well. I would have gone. But guys, have you got any questions for Chiara or Sarah? Yes?
If there is like a country you want to go to, but it's not with your course, but has similar modules to your course, can you still go?
So the question was, if there's a university that they'd like to go to that's actually not on the choice of list, that has similar modules, can we offer that? Chiara's going to answer that question.
No, unfortunately, I'm afraid not, because we need to have a partnership agreement in place, which is something that takes about a year to settle. So there needs to be actually an agreement. And this is something we haven't mentioned with Sarah. When you study abroad, you do not have to pay the fees at the partner university. Okay, you still pay your fees to us. And this is the reason why you cannot go anywhere else, because having an exchange agreement, it means that we are sending our student to the partner institution and they don't pay, but they are also sending us their students and they don't pay. So unfortunately, the answer is you cannot go anywhere you like, because we need to have this agreement in place.
Okay, is anybody? Yes, Jessica?
Is there any sort of things that are like short in the semester, like this is about summer school?
Okay, so the question was, Chiara and Sarah, is there an opportunity where they could go do an international opportunity but not a full semester, so a shorter trip, like a summer school?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a range of different short-term opportunities, including like volunteering and also internships, and also some summer schools that might be appropriate as well. You can find more information about that on the Global Opportunities section of Blackboard. So there's a little section for short-term mobilities. And there's also actually a number of virtual opportunities as well, because of the COVID pandemic this year. A lot of organisations have actually been doing kind of internships and things virtually, so you might want to have a look at those as well.
Okay, anybody else got any more questions? Yes, Lucia?
Are there any opportunities like for the third year or just for the
Okay, so the question was, as well as second year, the early part, is there an opportunity in third year to be able to do this?
No, I'm afraid not. In final year, you're not allowed to go abroad because you really need to study the modules that we are offering you. There isn't really much flexibility about what you're going to study. So you really need to be with us because that's your graduation year. And unfortunately, we don't offer options in final year.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions? Okay, that seems to be all the questions, Sarah and Chiara. So I'd like the students to take the opportunity to say thank you for sharing, obviously, the opportunities for them, if they wish to take up on them. So let's give them a round of applause.
Feel free to email me if you have any other questions. We are always on the other side of the email.
Yeah, absolutely.
Brilliant stuff. Okay, thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, folks, we have another break. Okay, you've got another 15-minute break. These are all the breaks you didn't get the last time. Loving this. Enjoy. Okay. We'll be starting again at 1:45, so... opportunity. Okay, folks, right, so we're moving on to our second speaker this morning. We're quite fortunate enough to be joined by Simon Lincoln, who's Global Insights Director from IMG. Simon's got a wealth of experience. I've known Simon for quite a long time, particularly in sport events, and he's worked at some major events around the world. So without further ado, I'll get Simon to tell you a little bit more about himself and what he does.
Cool, thank you, Ian. Hopefully you can all hear me. If not, let me know. So Ian's asked me to talk a little bit about my background and my career today, how I ended up at Endeavour, which is the holding company for IMG, and then a little bit about what I do at Endeavour. So hopefully that sort of fits with what you're expecting. So I, potted history of my career. I did a sports science degree at Stafford University a few years ago, let's say that. Came out of university and had to get a job in London because my folks lived abroad. So I ended up joining the IT recruitment world. Couldn't get more different to sports science. Had a fun couple of years in London, lived a life, living with some uni friends. But the career, that job was taking me further and further away from sort of my passion, which was sport and sort of media and entertainment. So I decided to go back to uni and do a sport management degree at Northumbria University, and that's where I met Ian all those many years ago. And I did that because I didn't want to end up just doing any job for the next 40 years of my life. I wanted it to be anchored around a passion point. And that's a reoccurring theme throughout my career, which I'll sort of take you through in a second. When I was at Northumbria, I was doing my dissertation, and this company called Ipsos kept popping up in my literature review for my dissertation. So I looked them up, I wrote to them, I asked for a job, went through a whole graduate recruitment process with them, for them to say no, because quite clearly I wanted a job in their sponsorship research division, and they didn't have one available, and they wouldn't take me on in just any other department and hope that a job would come up that would get me back into that division. And then I was lucky, someone resigned, a place came available in that team, and they phoned me back up and invited me down to join the business. So I started at Ipsos in my sort of main career. You'll probably know Ipsos from political polling. That's a very small part of their business. The biggest part is huge market research studies, brand research studies. And at my time there, I was trying to help brands understand the impact that their sponsorship was having on consumer perceptions, the consumer journey. So some of the biggest work we were doing was Ford and their Champions League sponsorship, Barclays and their Premier League sponsorship. But what happens in any career as you sort of progress and get more senior is you are asked to take on bigger work, more complex work, higher value work. And at Ipsos, that didn't sit within the sponsorship team. So my sort of career was taking a deviation again away from where my passion was, which was sport and sports management. So I decided to leave after 6 years because they couldn't offer me what I wanted, and I joined Kantar. Kantar was back then part of WPP, probably the biggest advertising media conglomerate in the world. And I sat within a sports division there. So again, doing lots of work for sports rights holders like Man United and UEFA, sponsors. Again, I took the Barclays account with me, but we were also working with Chevy and their sponsorship of Man United. So we were like really trying to understand that sports world for a business and the benefit to a brand of being associated with that sports world. So I spent 6 good years at Kantar. Then an opportunity came up at a company called Hall & Partners, and their biggest account, their second biggest account globally, but their biggest account in London was the Adidas global brand tracking and communications work. So that's, so I saw that as a good opportunity to sort of like shift again. So I joined Hall & Partners. We were working across 30 markets around the world for that study. Very big piece of work. And I was very happy there, and I wouldn't have left if Endeavour hadn't come knocking on my door. Endeavour, the next section, I'll show you a video, so I won't tell you too much about Endeavour, but it's just one of those companies that possibly not a lot of people have heard of, but when you understand what sits within Endeavour and what we do, it's a company that you absolutely want to work for if you get the opportunity. And forgive me, I think this is the group, but you had a talk maybe a couple of weeks ago from Philip Hughes that sits in our Winter Wonderland team about sort of putting on that event. So Winter Wonderland's one of our events that sits under the umbrella of Endeavour and IMG. So let's play the video, and I will talk to you a little bit about my role and Endeavour afterwards.
We are at a particular moment in time. We need to be a company that turns great ideas into actions. Our objective is not to maintain the status quo. Our objective is to define it.
Hopefully you can hear me again, and hopefully that video worked for you. Everything that you saw on that video, either we represent or we own outright. So we're representing talent across TV, film, music, digital, from actors all the way through to directors and producers. We have a brand marketing business that is doing activation and brand marketing around sports events and cultural events. We have a direct consumer business, so if we can take someone's idea, or we can take someone's content and we can put it directly into the consumer's homes via sort of OTT platforms. We're the biggest seller of media and entertainment content around the world. So we're known very much for our sports content that we sell. So we represent Wimbledon's TV rights globally, Serie A's TV rights globally, etc. But actually, we're now one of the biggest sellers of entertainment content as well. So through our content division, we're selling The Night Manager, Little Drummer Girl, Normal People. These are all TV series that we are taking and selling and representing in 100+ territories around the world. And then we have our event management business, which I think is the bit that's most relevant here. We stage, well, the last count, it was about 700 events annually. They range from professional sports events, so the UFC, some ladies and men's professional golf events and tennis events, all the way through to sort of cultural and music events like Winter Wonderland, Hampton Court Palace concert series in the summer, and then all the way down to mass participation runs, so Tough Mudders and different marathons and half marathons around the world. So it's quite a dynamic and quite an interesting business. So my role, I sit within the analytics team. We work across all of those parts of the division to help. And let me actually go through the slides. Yeah. So part of one of the most connected commercial networks in the world. So the insights team, we sit across all of that, and we're helping the business make decisions and then helping them understand the impact of those decisions. So we're understanding landscapes and benchmarking. We're trying to help develop sales narratives if we're selling a sponsorship into a brand, or if we're trying to sell an event into a market. So I caught the very end of your overseas opportunity presentation earlier, and they were talking about the opportunity in Hong Kong for you to go and study there. I've just got off the phone this morning from the Hong Kong team. They want to take Winter Wonderland into Hong Kong. So we're going to help them understand what the event needs to look like, and then we've got to put the sales narrative together for the city of Hong Kong. Why should they have a Winter Wonderland? Why should we be allowed to be the one that hosts it? Why is it relevant for the community around Hong Kong and sort of that southern tip of China, Shenzhen and Guangdong? So that's all where we play. Product development as well. Obviously, if we go, and I'll show an example later, if we're going to stage an event, we need to know what the demand for it is. We need to know what price people are willing to pay. We need to know what the revenue projection might be off that before we'll even consider signing contracts and putting significant spend behind it. So and then when it comes to sort of impact, we're looking at, well, we staged an event in Hong Kong. What was the economic impact? What was the benefit of hosting it? Did we justify the sales narrative that we put to the Hong Kong government why they should bring Winter Wonderland in? So we're constantly trying to prove prove what we do, as well as help the business make decisions. So in that way, we're sort of working strategically and tactically. Strategically is about the business plan and the business decisions. Tactically is how we go to market, how we deploy, and how we prove our worth. Okay. And we do that across, to the video, we do that across every part of our business: media, representation, licensing, merchandising products, venue strategy, fan experience, etc. So we touch every part of the business. I'll come back to this second. And so my role is to lead a team in London and Asia that handles all of that type of work for the business outside of North America. So my team's looking at Europe, Middle East, North Africa, and the whole of APAC in terms of the support we deliver. Sort of back to sort of my potted career history, where I left Hall & Partners after 9 months. You know, the team at Endeavour approached me and sort of said, we want you to join, and we want you to build out a team. And that's the reason I only did 9 months at Hall & Partners. The opportunity to build something was too good an opportunity to miss. So I've had to recruit the team that sits around me. That team, and there's a reason why I'm explaining this, that team's got a heavy focus on sort of subject matter expertise. So everyone I've recruited has got 4, 5, 6 years experience in their field of play. Plucked a guy out of Man United to support the sponsorship sales side of our business. We took someone out of BT Sport to help with our media division and our TV rights division. I actually went back to Hall & Partners and took someone from the team I had on the Adidas account to help the brand and marketing part of our business. And then my first person I put in Singapore earlier this year for Asia, I've got a fairly generalist person that's he's got an MBA and he's pretty good at adapting to different scenarios and different requests that come his way. But the next pillar for his development and his team's development is probably going to include subject matter expertise. But you know, coming back to sort of some of my sort of Ipsos and Kantar days where I was going through grad recruitment, you know, I've always found it very tough to differentiate candidates at that interview stage when you're building out teams. You'll receive a lot of CVs with a lot of similar university degrees, and the place I go to find out whether they're people I want to speak to is actually the other expertise part of the CV. What have they done outside of the degree? What other experience have they tried to get to support where they want their career to go? So I talk about this team building parts purely to say to you guys, make sure that you're looking at opportunities that sit outside the day-to-day of your university degree. That international, the end of that, some of the opportunities around that international program you've got look really interesting. The reason I got the job at Hayes back in the day when I first left uni was not because I was the best candidate for the job, but it's because I went to America for 2 summers at university to coach tennis on a summer camp. And that was a conversation point in the interview. And when I joined, they said, look, we couldn't decide, and we went with you purely because you seemed to have something about you. You took yourself off at 18 to go to a different country for 3 months. And that's the only reason I got the job. So yeah, I would, you live and you work in a city where you have amazing opportunities in events and tourism. There's loads of, obviously now's not a great time, but you know, over the next few years when the events industry bounces back, there's loads of seasonal jobs and opportunities. Winter Wonderland takes on 6,000 people for the run over the Christmas period. I would just advise you to get as much of that experience on your CV as possible to differentiate yourself from the competition. Let me have a look at my notes. Is that everything I wanted to say? I think so. Is there any questions at the moment from that? Before I go on and show you an example of a piece of work we did in the US.
Got a question from Jessica. What's your question?
Along with like experience, like with the recruitment process, what other things could you have to make you stand out
from everybody else? Okay, Simon, the question is, obviously you've highlighted some key areas that got you your job. What Jessica's question is, can you give any more advice on other things that you could add to a CV to make you stand out from everybody else?
Yeah, well, to the point I said around Winter Wonderland, if you're, you know, if you want to go and work in events and tourism, there's loads of seasonal opportunity in London. You know, the All England Lawn Tennis Club has a massive recruitment program to stage that event. You know, the team that sit in Wimbledon all year round is probably about 75 people that work permanently for the All England Club. But when they put that event on, they need thousands of staff to make it work. Same with Winter Wonderland. There's the Natural History Museum ice rink that requires seasonal work. There's, I mean, just in our business, there's the Hampton Court Palace Festival over the summer as well, which is a concert series that needs work. So I would, you know, if you want to work in the events and tourism business, I would find a way to get relevant experience on your CV, whether it's part-time work, whether it's internships or seasonal work. The other actually thing, and I joked with some of my team recently, the last time we were looking for someone, I honestly not sure I would get a job if I came out of university now with the experience I had back then. There are some CVs where people have set up digital businesses. They may be small in scale, but they've set up a business, they run it through uni. It could be a YouTube channel, it could be an influencer channel, it could be something else. And then they've sort of dialed it down when they've wanted to get a career job. So I would just look at the opportunities that are out there in London and try and get a few bits on your CV. Because when it comes to the interview stage and you'll be asked about it, what did you learn about working at Winter Wonderland? Did it teach you anything you didn't know from your degree? You know, does it give you an eye on how the event operates that you could then bring to our event? So it's that type of questioning that you can then begin to answer with real world examples. Hopefully that answers the question.
Okay, brilliant, thank you. Anybody else got any questions for Simon at this point? Nope, over to you.
Okay, so the example I wanted to give, just to sort of bring to life what I do on a day-to-day basis, and I'd say that research and analytics isn't the most insightful or isn't the most exciting part of the business that I work in. You know, staging an event, selling sponsorship, selling TV rights is sort of slightly more glamorous than analytics. But if this type of information doesn't get put in the business plan, they will never have an event to stage. It's as simple as that. So we, I don't know how you may or may not be aware of this, but we brought a King Tut exhibition to the Saatchi Gallery about this time last year, and we had to close it because of the first lockdown in March. But we're touring best part of 150 artifacts from Tutankhamun to 10 cities around the world. And when that tour is over, all those artifacts will go back to a brand new museum that they're building in Egypt at the moment. And then that's it. The artifacts won't leave Egypt ever again. The only place you can go and see them will be going down to Cairo to see them in person. But obviously, we're limited by 10 cities. We're limited by the size of the venues that we can operate in for that tour. So we came up with the idea of actually, let's take the best of that tour. Let's take the best sort of VTs and videos and footage that we can create, and let's try and put in a video sort of virtual immersive exhibition that tells the story of Tutankhamun digitally rather than in person. And that we could tour quite easily. It's a lot less hassle. I can tell you now, moving 150 of the most priceless artifacts around the world is no small task in terms of logistics, security, and insurance. Whereas taking a virtual video exhibition around the world is a heck of a lot easier. So we were thinking about this idea earlier this year and how we would do it. So we did a piece of work in San Diego and Dallas, as they were two places that we wanted to test. And we included this product called, this technique called Gabber and Granger in this survey. And Gabber and Granger is all about trying to understand the price that people are willing to pay, the demand for the event at that price point, and then the tolerance that people are willing to pay. How far can we push people through the pricing scale or the pricing options before it begins to detrimentally impact our ability to stage the event? So a DMA in the US is a direct marketing area. Think of it as our equivalent of the ITV regions on TV. So we were testing two regions. We took them for a pricing scale. You can see on the chart at the top that $20 to about $25, $27 is the optimum price. that's where our revenue line, which is the line, is going to sort of stay at its highest. Okay. We could also see at that level that demand for the events around 35%. Okay. So that gives us our pricing range, and then if to know if we can push people through to the top end of that, we look at something called price elasticity, which is how much. So for every percentage change in price, do I get a greater percentage decrease in demand? If I do, then it's a highly sensitive price product, and I need to be careful how far I push people through the price scale. If I get a lower percentage drop, then I know I can push them through the price scale more easily. And what you can see, basically the red is showing you that anything above $25 is an area not to go. Beyond that, you can probably push them to the top $25 mark. So this is all the types of information that are feeding into the business plan. The final piece is sort of the scenarios. So we sort of start working through what that might mean in terms of number of tickets sold. So just looking at this in terms of San Diego, 2 million adults aged 25 plus. We reckon from the marketing plan, we could make 29% of those people aware of the experience based on their awareness of similar or other exhibitions that we included in the survey we did. We tested a lot of different price points, but just in this scenario, we're picking the $20 price point. If someone tells me at $20 that they are absolutely definitely going to go down and buy and attend if it comes to San Diego, I'm only going to take 75 of those percent of those people into a calculation, because there's always a difference between what people will claim and what people will do. If people will say they'll probably attend, I'm only going to take 25% of those people through to a calculation, because they're far more likely not to buy than they are to buy if it came to town. Okay. And then we're just modeling out how many ticket buyers would we have, how many tickets would they likely buy, how many kids would they likely bring, to try and understand what the demand and what the ultimate revenue take might be. So we got 2 million adults in San Diego. We reckoned about 500,000 would be aware of the event. Of that, bearing in mind all of the caveats, we reckoned we'd have 106,000 ticket buyers. And of that 106,000, 34,000 would bring children. We know from how many tickets they're likely to buy, that would result in 325,000 ticket sales to adults, 92,000 child tickets. And don't worry too much about the supplementary products at the bottom there, but they're sort of add-ons to the ticket, to the experience. That was going to result in roughly around 9 million ticket sales from the San Diego DMA. Mostly adult tickets, that's 6 million, 1.4 million in child tickets, and then some of the ancillary products were going to be about $1 million each. And that's exactly the type of information that then feeds into that business plan about the event. Do we think people want to come to the event? Do we think it's going to capture imagination? How many people can we bring along? What price can we charge? What's the optimum price, and what's the revenue take for ticketing? That then sits in a business plan that goes to an investment committee, and they decide whether or not they want to take the risk on the event. And that's happening. This is happening day in, day out across every single event we want to launch or take somewhere. So the Hong Kong example I gave you earlier about Winter Wonderland, we will do this in the Winter Wonderland process over the next 5 to 6 weeks to see if there's appetite for the event in Hong Kong and to see whether we can generate the revenue we need to make it worth our while. So that's around this is my day-to-day. It's feeding strategy and information into a business planning process to help the business make the right decisions. Is that okay? Is there any questions on that? If there's not, I'll...
We've just got one question, Simon.
Cool, go on.
With events like the theme park show, so he does like quite a lot of like the revenue and everything like that. Do you do that for like quite a lot of events like in a year in the business, or do you kind of just focus on one?
Okay, so the question was, Simon, you've obviously given an insight of one of the events you deal with. The question quite simply is as well as that event, do you deal with a number of events or just specifically that one event?
Do I personally deal with more than that event?
Yes? Yeah.
Yeah, I do. Yes, we have a portfolio of 700 events. I mean, not all of them require my help or expertise because some of them are established. I tend to get involved when we're thinking about a new event or a new opportunity. So, you know, I don't get too involved in Winter Wonderland in Hyde Park purely because it's been around for 15, 14 years and is well established and they know what they're doing. But the moment they want to take that to another market, that's when they come and they need the insights, they need the intelligence, they need the research to help them make the decision on whether or not to spend. And actually, Ian asked me to sort of set you a little task, which is what's coming up next, which might, if I go through that, it might bring to life a little bit some of this and how we do it.
Okay, thank you.
Do you want me to go on? Are there any other questions, Ian?
No, that's it at the moment, thanks.
All right, cool. Industry-based problem. So I think this is something that, sorry, hang on, my screen's just gone a bit funny. Bear with. Am I still showing my screen?
No, you're not. Not at the moment, no.
Simon, do you want me to reshare my screen? Cool. Hopefully that's now on. So we recently announced that we're going to take something called Atelier de Luminaire to New York. So there's a video I'll show you quickly if we have time. Ian, let me know if we're short on time and I'll skip the video. So Atelier de Luminaire is sort of like a visual projection of a famous artist's work in an immersive environment, essentially. It's done fantastically well in Paris. It's done fantastically well on the Côte d'Azur, and we've signed a contract with Culture Spaces, which is the owner of the IP, to take it to New York. So this is a project we've been working on for 18 months. The research example I gave you earlier for the virtual King Tut we did this time last year. To give you an understanding that we're going to stage it at the sort of immigrant industrial savings bank building in downtown Manhattan. That's just at the bottom. It's at the bottom of Manhattan, just close to where the Brooklyn Bridge is in Manhattan. Hugely expensive real estate. The capex investment to try and get this off the ground is something in the region of $18 to $25 million. So we have to, and we've announced it, we've signed the lease on the building, we're going to start fit out probably January next year, to launch in autumn next year. So before we've even taken a paying customer into the building, there's 9 months worth of work that needs to go into bringing this to life in New York. The contract on the building and the rent, the fit out, the kit, the building of the website, marketing the fact that it's going to happen, putting the ticket platform and ticket sales platform in place, hiring staff to run it, training those staff to run it, and then doing launch events and PR. So before you even take a paying customer through the door for the first time, you've got multi-million dollars worth of investment that needs to go into getting us off the ground. And that is why sort of the slightly boring insights data world that I live in is so crucial and important to the business, because unless they're absolutely sure that they can make this work and earn that money back, they're not gonna put that investment into it. So Ian, if we've got time, should we show the video of it's only a minute video of what Culture Space actually is and what Atelier de Luminaire is?
Yeah, we've got time for the video. Yeah.
Cool. Simon, can you play the video for me?
Plunge into Van Gogh's The Starry Night, no matter the time of day. From southern French harbors and fields to scenes from his native Holland, 500 of Vincent van Gogh's works will be lighting up the French capital's Atelier des Lumières in a 10-month exhibition.
Here behind me you can see his paintings of sunflowers. They're like sunlight, and thanks to the digital projection we've highlighted this colour and this subject, which only Van Gogh perfectly mastered.
The show uses technology developed in 2012 to combine art and music into an immersive experience.
By enlarging it like this, we can see the substance, we see the strokes of the paintbrush, the thickness, that we normally don't get to see.
Another effect of the exhibition's scale, visitors are almost literally drawn into the paintings.
The audience here are actors. They're part of the show. Their shadows play with the images.
An immersive charm that's so far been a hit with the public. The studio's last show, dedicated to Austrian painter Gustav Klimt, drew in well over 1 million visitors.
Cool. I think that's the end of the video. So you can see it could be really, it's really cool exhibition. It's really sort of innovative. We're really excited to take it to New York. We know from the work we've done that there's going to be huge demand for it from the New York population. And we're also confident that when the tourism market gets back and we will travel again, that there'll be a huge demand from the tourism market. So my sort of I guess the industry problem that Ian's asked me to set is just holistically across everything that you might need. Sort of what information and what data and what insight do you think you would need to have to make a go no go decision on an investment such as this? You know, if you were to spend something in the region of $20 million of your company's money, what would you want to know before you made that decision? And that's kind of that's the end of my piece, and hopefully that gets you thinking about the complexity of staging events and the business planning that goes into it.
Brilliant. Okay,
and that's me. Any final questions?
Okay, thank you, Simon. Right, we got any questions? None at all? We have no questions. I think.
I've done so well.
Yeah, you have, yeah. Okay, Simon, I want to thank you for taking your time, because I know you're very, very busy, for sort of sharing an insight to IMG, etc., etc. And I'd like to take this opportunity for the students to thank you as well. So, guys, would you like to say thank you?
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Okay, thank you, Simon. Thanks a lot now. I'll speak to you soon.
Cool. Take care, Ian. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Dan. Bye. Okay, guys, right, so we're moving straight into our next speaker. Now, we have Chris Lee. This is very much tourism-focused. The gentleman going to talk to you now is the Managing Director for Emotive Travel Marketing. And obviously, his focus is quite a lot in Asia, in Thailand. So we'd like to welcome Chris Lee into the room, please.
Switches his microphone on. So good, all good. Well, welcome everybody. Thanks for inviting me in. So I'm going to be talking to you today about tourism and the effects of COVID-19 on our very, very challenging year. I've entitled the presentation, "The Year Travel Stopped." In effect, we could have said the year that travel started, stopped, and possibly started again. It's been one of those sort of years. So just trying to get my screen to go forward. Oh, there we go. Okay, so just a little bit about myself. I've been in travel for about 27 years. I worked with a couple of tour operators, Saga Holidays, and then long haul specialist Travel Mood. So we sold Travel Mood to TUI, our biggest travel company, and then I set up my own company, ETM Group, which looks after tourist boards. So we've got clients in India, Thailand, Papua New Guinea, Tourism Northern Territory, which is in Australia, in Japan, and Orlando, Florida as well. So what is my basic job? Well, the basic job is to generate tourism from UK and Europe to go to these countries and to visit these countries. And what does my day-to-day job look like? Well, there are certainly no 2 days the same. In very straight marketing terms, we do a lot. We do everything from running their social media channels to advertising for them, whether it's radio, TV, print, running their websites for them, working together with tour operators to do joint marketing activity, direct mail, paid research. We also do a lot on training, going around doing road shows for travel agents and tour operators, and contracting events too. So many different things really to my working day, which can be different every single day. But the parts that I like most, I suppose, are the parts that have changed the most. So yeah, you know, one of the things we do is I will take agents and tour operators and media to the various destinations that I'm promoting. You know, on one of those trips, my commute would be like I'm here walking along with an elephant. But of course, that's all over. So all I seem to do now is my only travel, in fact, because I haven't traveled abroad since February, is on a train, all masked up. And I'm used to having a room with a view, whether it's been in Thailand or Japan or Australia. But now I'm working from home, like most people, and I haven't got a view at all. And those fam trips can take in the beautiful beaches of Thailand, go to the national parks in Australia, so many different experiences. That's what I would be doing now, normally. But now, yeah, the only trip to the beach, that's not me, by the way, was to my local beach. That's all I've been doing. So from a year when I would normally be traveling 3 months of the year abroad, and then when I'm not traveling abroad, I'll be traveling all around the country, to not traveling at all, it's been a big change. And the holiday shows that we used to do all around the UK, Ireland and Europe, we used to do them in London, Manchester, Glasgow. Again, we've had to move those virtually as well. So that's really how my life has changed so much, and my work has changed. So what I wanted to do for you is tell you basically how we've managed to change our business and what's happened to our business and happened to our industry. And I thought I'd better just start by mentioning the support we've got from the government. I think it's worth mentioning that it's not been easy. Travel has been affected by more than by most industries. It really has fundamentally stopped. So having the government schemes, whether it's the job retention scheme, which has helped pay for any of the staff that we've had to put on furlough, and that's going up until March next year, giving us payment holidays, deferring our VAT and tax if we need to, offering loans, extending annual leave. These are all ways in which at least the government has helped us out to sort of keep going whilst we wait for the borders to open again and people being able to travel again and paying us to do so. So I said I look after several clients, but for today, I'm basically going to focus on Thailand. It's the country that I've looked after for the longest, and I certainly know the best. So what was Thailand like BC or before COVID? For tourism terms, we attracted nearly 1 million visitors from the UK, staying on average 14 days. So a lot of money spent and traveling all around Thailand. So it was a big, big business for us. And then this year, of course, whilst January, we had a normal month, attracting nearly 100,000 people. By February, COVID had arrived. It was more than just a rumor of something that was going on in China. And it started dropping away. And then by March, it had halved. And then from April onwards, basically, we've had no tourism whatsoever. So with that in mind, we had to sort of lay out what was our journey going to look like? How are we going to approach this? And this sort of lays out basically the journey that we've had in this last year and what it will be like, we think, going forward. So in that first quarter, as I said, travel was normal, but COVID arrived. and it soon became clear that it was going to have a big impact. And in fact, we went into lockdown March, I think 22nd, I think it was. So the first thing we did, though, was before we decided what marketing we should do, is actually go and ask our customers what they're thinking, how they're feeling about travel, how they're feeling about travel longer term, and what would hold them back from traveling. Then in Q2, while we're in lockdown, we moved our marketing to virtual marketing, and rather than any in-person training, do everything on a virtual and digital platforms. Q3, we became unlocked, and it was fascinating to see how quickly the Brits wanted to travel again. If you remember, Europe particularly opened up, and countries like Spain, but because COVID had come back again, or probably never left, a second wave as they described it, the UK government introduced a 14-day quarantine should you be in those countries and come back to the UK. So that stopped people traveling again and stopped people booking again. But for Thailand, we needed to, through this period, because Thailand, people weren't traveling to Thailand at that point, still keep them aware of Thailand and keep them still dreaming about going to Thailand. And then in Q4, we've gone back into lockdown. We're now, what, week 3 of 4? So we come out again next week, don't we? And so our marketing again has gone back into virtual. But from a travel perspective, some long-haul and mid-haul destinations, such as in the Indian Ocean, Mauritius, the Maldives, South Africa, and in terms of mid-haul destinations, that would be places like Dubai. They've opened up again, created travel corridors, and people are booking, and booking in good numbers. So from a Thailand perspective, we are ready now to start preparing for when Thailand opens and move that message, that marketing message, if you like, to conversion to those bookings. And then moving forward for 2021, obviously the good news is that these vaccines are arriving. Particularly excited about the one with Oxford University, the third one to be announced after Pfizer and Moderna, I think it was. But the Oxford one particularly important because it's easily upscalable. We'll be able to get it out to the masses quickly. The government reckons probably by the end of April, we can all be vaccinated for those who want to be. And perhaps we'll head towards a more normal travel again, whatever normal will be then. So let's talk about I'm going to give sort of 3 or 4 examples, simple examples of where we've worked to change our approach. But it always starts with research. Before you're going to do any marketing, you really have to know what you're up against. What's your customer thinking? We need to know how they're feeling about the possibility of vaccines, the possibility that they'll have to change their health insurance, what impact it might have in terms of taking holidays during school terms. Can they afford to travel? The financial impact on people could be quite severe. So will they be able to afford to travel? And for Thailand specifically, how was Thailand being affected with COVID? And therefore, what health and safety measures have been put in place during that time? Interestingly enough, actually, the Thailand story with COVID is very different to our own. Thailand was the second country behind China to experience the COVID-19 arrival. But since February, which is when Thailand first got COVID-19, we've seen just a few thousand cases, under 5,000 cases, and 58 deaths to date. 58 deaths, it still sounds bad, doesn't it? But compared to here, a fraction of what they've had. And they've had no deaths now for several months. So a very, very different situation over in Thailand, and something which we needed to communicate. So we did this survey with YouGov. We sampled 4,000 adults and then asked of those adults how many people were used to traveling long haul in the past 3 years. And we define long haul travel as people who've been on a plane for more than 8 hours. So that's what we defined as long haul travel. And so we asked them, well, how many of them were looking to travel long haul in the next 18 months? And bear in mind, this was back in March when we did this. And as you can see, the optimistic thing back then was 69% were still looking to travel long haul in the next 18 months. Some of them quite similar than others. Obviously, that hasn't panned out that well, but it gave us a good indication that people were still keen to travel and that we had a bright future. And which type of people were more likely to travel first? The first would be the people who've actually got the money. Those households with the highest income and highest net worth. They certainly stood out as the first that were likely to travel. And age group wise, youth travel, well, they were certainly less risk adverse in terms of when they were prepared to travel rather than the 50 plus market. So for Thailand, these are the two major age groups who travel to Thailand. So we call pre-family and post-family, and they are our two major markets. And when we ask the customers, so what is it about the impact of COVID which makes you hesitant to travel? And a lot of people just said it simply we don't feel safe. 35% said don't feel safe. 18% said they had financial concerns, and some also about their job security. We also wanted to know, well, okay, if you are going to travel, despite COVID in the future, how do you feel about Asia specifically, and how does Asia compare to other long-haul destinations? And Asia held up pretty well, and that's important because Thailand probably has about 70% of the tourist market to Asia, so it's important that we performed well in that. And on what part of the journey, the holiday, if you like, were people most concerned about COVID? It was on the flights and in the UK airports. Actually, on the flights, that research has now shown that is less of a concern, but it was certainly very much back in the early days what people were most concerned about. So we established this from this, who was likely to book first? People probably booking trips which were going to go further in advance. So what we call them celebration trips. So honeymoons, second anniversaries, significant birthdays, but also, again, that youth market we call Generation Z, the students, postgrads, and young professionals who will travel first, again, the luxury, and then that youth market. So I just wanted to show you, this was our first little bit of marketing, which we did back in March. Everybody was staying at home. Nobody was going out. So we had to engage with people in a very specific way. And I'm sure you remember the early days of Joe Wicks doing his little exercises, and a lot of people watching that at home. So we thought we'd do our own versions of this with a series of Thai classes. There was exercise classes, there was Muay Thai classes, Thai boxing, and also cookery classes as well. So I've got a little video here to show you what that campaign looks like. Cameras roll, please.
Please let the wind take my heart away. Let it fly to somewhere far from here, through the crowds and through the hills in my dreams. Let this heart drift off to where it needs to be. Take this heart and let it soar across the sky to the farthest seas so it will go. Even if we are apart, you'll still be in my heart to keep you safe and sound through the night. Take this heart and let it soar across the sky to the farthest seas so it will go. Even if we are apart, you'll still be in my heart to keep you safe and sound through the night. You're still in my heart.
Okay, so that was our actual video, which we ran a couple of months later. But can we show the other video now? Thanks. So we saw the two videos there. That second video was it went really well actually. We got over 370,000 reaches on that video, and we found it a really engaging sort of form of soft marketing. And then we also wanted to take to our travel trade partners a real education program, again to them back at home. So we have an online training scheme which we have, which we particularly promoted, and this was all about training them to give the very best knowledge of Thailand across 8 different modules. They get a certificate at the end, and we saw a huge increase in the amount of agents taking up this online training scheme. Nearly 400% growth in people taking up this scheme, and in fact we won an award for this particular online training scheme. So that worked really well for us. We also ran a whole series of webinars, again very interactive, again huge number of response. So this was really the best way to ensure that whilst people weren't booking, our travel agent and tour operator friends were giving the best very education so they can sell the very best Thailand when people were prepared to book again. So just one of those webinars we got over 12,000 views on. So a really impressive way of keeping ourselves engaged with the travel trade and making sure that they're learning the very best. So we still had to keep that awareness high as well, and so we wanted to still inspire the consumer. And that the first video that we'd watched just back then was called Better Together, and I thought it was a lovely little video. It was basically all about just telling people Thailand was still thinking of them and enticing them across. And we worked with a number of tour operators to promote that video across their social media channels as well as ours. And we had to target there, as you can see, of reaching 1 million impressions, but we actually achieved in the end over 5 million impressions and about 400,000 video views. So again, a nice way of just keeping top of mind for the consumer. So we've kept the consumer hopefully engaged by moving again to much more social and digital marketing. We've kept the trade engaged by doing a lot more virtual training, but also we wanted to ensure that the trade did business with us still. So every year there's an exhibition called the World Travel Market, where hotels and attractions from all around the world will meet with tour operators in the UK. This happens in London, and they meet to discuss their contracts and contracting for the following year. That didn't happen this year, so we decided to set up a virtual travel mart for our Thai hoteliers and attractions to meet with UK, Ireland and European tour operators back in October. So we attracted 95 Thai hoteliers and over 88 tour operators from 14 different countries to meet with each other and do that contracting process. So you can probably see, I don't know if any of you've used any of these sort of platforms. This one's called Remo, and it's a really good contracting platform. So each of these tables you can see, you can go into these tables, put your camera on, your mic on, just like you would do on Zoom or Teams, and talk to each other, and then have presented, just like I'm doing to you, in each table. Also on top of that, you've got the usual broadcast functions, so that people can, so we had a guest speaker from Condé Nast Traveller speaking to them as well. There's a chat function as well, so we ran a little treasure hunt, so we put little pieces of treasure in the chat room so they could collect those and collect a prize as well at the end. So really good interactive way of ensuring that we were contracting and still doing that business with the customers. So that's really just a few examples of how we've tried to pivot from the real world to the virtual world whilst we wait for those borders to open again and for people to start traveling again. So I was asked, one of the key questions sort of in the brief here was what are some of the skills and attributes that are needed to work in travel? And I think fundamentally it's all about the passion for travel, passion for places and passion for people. If you're passionate about those things, that is absolutely core. I believe fundamentally that without that passion, it's very difficult to do the job that we do. And certainly that's something which I find links up all the people that work in the travel industry. It's not the best paid industry sometimes, but our shared passion is something that definitely drives us. And this year, more than any other, I suppose, we've had to really adapt when we couldn't fundamentally do the thing that we wanted to do, which was to travel and to show people travel. We've really had to adapt. And I think one of the things that's really stood out is that when you do, whether it's Zoom calls or any of these sort of virtual events, people are doing so many of them now that you have to become a lot more creative in how you do those. So innovation has been never more important. Creativity has never been more important. We've had to evolve. And I think in some ways we will have to evolve, continue to evolve. When people start traveling again, the type of experience that they're looking for, I think will have to evolve again as well. So that's it from me. I hope that's given you some sort of insight into the year that was or the year that is, and I hope the year that will never return again. If you've got any questions, I'd love to take them now.
Okay, has anybody got any questions for Chris here this morning? No questions? Okay, Chris, well, we have no questions. I don't think we've got any online either. So I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you for sharing your thoughts about the travel world at the present and your experience and some of the things that have impacted you over the last year. And fingers crossed things can get back to normal soon. So I'd like to take this opportunity for the students to say thank you for sharing your wisdom this morning.
Thanks very much.
Okay, that's great, Chris. Thank you very much now. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, folks, we've got approximately 10-15 minute break now. Okay, right, let's go. Okay, folks, right, so we're going to finish with our fourth speaker today. The gentleman you're going to have is Dan Flint. Dan's going to tell you about how he started his own business, from a business in the northeast of England to running one of the second biggest running events in the north of England. So without further ado, I'll let Dan Flint tell you a little bit about himself.
Hiya, thanks, Ian. Yeah, I'm Dan Flint. I'm a 43-year-old, born and bred in Newcastle. I started out after I came back from university. I actually went to Loughborough University and did a sports science degree, and with that was recreation management. I finished in 1998, at which point I was still running sort of an international level. Did schoolboy international running and what have you. The start of the sort of entrepreneurial side of things came as I left university. In 1998, you'll see that I'm sitting in a gym. You'll see the treadmills behind there. I started, bought this gym in 1998, so 22 years ago, when I was 21, when I left university. I did that by cashing in some shares. I had some bank shares which I used, and in the first 3 years of having it, I paid for that business outright, and I've still got it now. During the early years, I was personal training and working in the gym, and we went from one gym, it's only a small gym, sort of 250 members, went from there up to 4 gyms, and then we've come back down to 1, and I still do personal training, I still work from the gym. However, my running continued and phased out as I got older, but I was still involved in a running club, which was Bladen Harriers, and they organise a famous race which is called the Bladen Race, which is it's a Geordie tradition. It's been going for 40 years, and it has its own song, which is sung at football matches, in fact, in the Premiership. So that race has 5,000 runners in it, and I'm now the race director of that race, but that is just on a voluntary basis. So I just do that as a committee member of Bladen Harriers, and I do that kind of in my spare time. So that was 3 or 4 years ago when I became involved more with that. From that, though, I realised that there is a market for smaller events, and traditionally smaller events were organised by clubs. So runners could just pay a small amount and they just have a local race organised by a local club, and that would help support the club. In the last 10 years, there's some in the northeast, especially, there's some other independent event companies have started up, and they now organise a lot of the events in the northeast. What there wasn't a great deal of was trail running. So in 2019, I set up a company now, which is Wild Deer Events. Wild Deer Events is just a trading name of a limited company which is called G-Fit Running Events. So if you did search for it, it's G-Fit Running Events Limited, which are trade as Wild Deer Events. So we put our first race on in July 2019. We sold out. 2 months prior to the event, we sold out. So from that initial sale, we used the money from that. We worked out our overheads very quickly, kept it very simple, and we worked out that we could buy all of our equipment, all of our infrastructure from the profit from that first race. So basically, we bought all of the signage, we bought all of the race arch, etc. Bought gazebos, and we set up the website. Obviously, it didn't pay for the whole website, but it started the ball rolling on the website. So the first race, massive success. It was just in a woodland, very close to where I am now, and we had 400 runners. I did a 10K run. At the end, they had a hog roast, a beer, and a T-shirt, which is something a bit different, which other organisers don't always do. And from there, the business grew very quickly. We then organised a race every month towards the end of 2019, and became larger events, became 500, 600 runners leading up to Christmas last year. and things were doing really well. Obviously, since then, during that time, we invested the profits. We bought extra kits, more gazebos, but we're bringing in 500-600 runners each event, so things were looking really good. Moving on from there, I'll tell you a little bit about the actual, I don't know if you guys know much about the running sector. You've got the larger companies, sort of the London Marathon Company, which is actually a charity. You've got the larger event companies like the Great Run Company, which is Brendan Foster's company, based in the Northeast, but they do events throughout the country. So they'll do mass participation events. So they'll do the Great South Run, the Great North Run, they'll do the Great Birmingham Run, etc. So they'll be looking at 10,000 plus entrants. You've then got a slightly smaller company, which is owned and managed by Steve Cram, and he'll do events sort of 1,000 to say 5,000 runners. And then you'll have the smaller companies like mine in the Northeast and around the country who will do running events for anything from 100 runners up to 1,000. But we haven't quite got that yet on our trail events. As I said earlier about the club organised races, they still go on, not quite as many now. And then you have the inter-club events, which is just organised by committees of for the Northeast area or for the North area or for the national area. As the business grew in 2019, opportunities just kept arising for me. So it kept appearing for me. Sorry. So we got in touch. Those charities got in touch with us. They wanted to come on the back of our success and host events. So we have an event next year in Alnwick Castle, which was, if you know, Harry Potter was filmed there. So at Alnwick Castle, we're going to have an event next year, trail event, which is in conjunction with a charity in the northeast of England. And we also have acquired an interest in the triathlon business, which Ian may have told you about. And we were going to start doing some multi-sport events next year. So we're going to do some duathlons and triathlons next year. And we're also branching into other areas of the country. So we're looking at the Lake District, which is sort of an hour and a half, 2 hours from where I am now. And we're going to do some trail events there. We're going to do some triathlon events there. But also we're looking at Yorkshire. So we have an event in January, hopefully, if we're not locked down. At Harewood House, it's just near Leeds. So that's that's an hour and a half from where I am now. And we've already sold sort of 400 tickets for that. And we're looking to do sort of 600 or 700 runners for that event in January. So going from July 2019, we've already gone to a company which is going to have 27 to 28 events next year, hopefully, again, lockdown permitting. But it's becoming more and more difficult to put these events on with the lockdowns where we're having to change people's entries into different events because at short-term notice that things are getting cancelled. So a typical day at the moment for me is an awful lot of emails. So I'm on the phone a lot with organised, with venues, with councils. We get an awful lot of emails every day. So currently we have 7 events open for entry with approximately 300 to 400 entrants in each event. In November, during the lockdown, obviously, which was still in now, we were supposed to have 3 events, 2 in the northeast, 1 in the Lake District. All of those events didn't take place. One of them became a virtual event, which 95% of the runners were happy with, and they just did their run virtually, and they received their T-shirt and their medal through the post, which they were fine, and they got their running bib number through the post, and they were able to do the run virtually, and they sent their result in to the timing company which we use, and he collated the results, and it was a good success as a virtual event. The other 2 events, the one in the northeast and one in the Lake District, we just had to say to the runners that we would go to a rearranged date, or they could transfer to another event. So that means that on a daily basis, we've got a lot of transfers and a lot of changes. So a typical day at the minute, as I say, is phone calls and emails. But yesterday I was on a site visit at a place called Lambton Castle. So we do usually once or twice a week. I'll go on site and I'll do recce's. So that may involve meeting the venue organizer. It may involve the venue owner. Sorry, may involve doing a recce of the course with one of my staff, and that's what we did yesterday, which was just for a race on the 5th of December. So that's just next Saturday. So we've got 300 booked in for that one. We're hoping for another 100, 150 before then. Now that we know that the lockdown's over, races can again take place no matter what tier you're in. So even if you're in tier 3, sporting events can take place outdoors. So I'm currently sorting out, again, a typical day would be sorting out T-shirts, medals, anything else that we're going to offer. The Lambton venue, we're not doing any food, simply because it was too close to the lockdown and we weren't sure how we were going to sort that out. So we just kept it fairly simple, kept the price down, and they're going to get a medal this time, and they can purchase a T-shirt if they want to do the extra. A typical week with an event would involve a couple of trips to the venue. Again, we'll check the course out, make sure it was okay. The day before the event, we would spend half a day setting the course up, which would just be going around with the signage and any spray paint on the ground or any arrows, that sort of thing. We would then fill up the van and the vehicles that we use, and the day before the race. Typical race day on the event day for us. So, for example, the event on the 5th of December starts at 9 a.m. So we would set off and get to the venue for 6 a.m. The van would be filled up the day before. We would be there from 6 a.m. First runner would be there 9 a.m. and would probably be finished by 12. The runners will be finished by 12, and then by the time we've collected all the signage and things up and back home, it'll be around about 4 o'clock. So you're probably looking at a sort of 10-hour day on an event day, on an event of around about 350 to 400 runners. In terms of staff, which I touched on a little bit there, I've got 2 part-time members of staff. One of them is currently furloughed, but she should be back next month. And the other one, who also works in the gymnasium business, she is still working part-time in the gym and part-time with the events. So she's doing a bit of personal training outside, actually. And we've been outside this morning doing personal training, which wasn't much fun at 7 degrees. So yeah, a little bit about sort of advertising the business. We tend to use just emails and Facebook. So Facebook's been a massive help for us. The Facebook advertising is a tremendous vehicle for getting events promoted, especially sort of running events. So I spend between about £30 and £40 a week on Facebook adverts. That tends to be sort of 2 adverts running simultaneously for the nearest event or the events which we feel may need a little extra push. So you can very quickly, you can specify your area and which traits and habits people want. The people that you want to target, so it's all runners and triathletes and fitness and health and people who want to lose weight and that sort of thing and running. So we just target that in a specific area. So for the Northeast races, we just keep it to sort of 50, 60 kilometres of the venue. When we've branched further into the Lake District and when we're going down to Yorkshire, the Facebook advertising has been basically around that area, as well as the normal posts that we put on a daily basis. So going back to a typical day, that would probably involve at least an hour of social media, Facebook and also Instagram on there. Website, we'll try and keep updated as much as possible. Probably not on a daily basis, but it'll be on a weekly basis. There'll be a couple of hours of changes to the website, which we can do ourselves the way it's been set up. Emailing, we tend to use emails quite a bit. We use a company called ResultsBase for our entries. So we use the same company all the time to keep it simple for the customers. They can all enter all of our races on the one website. But that company allows us to have 5 free emails to each entrant of an event. So we can use those 5 emails to push other events. So as soon as somebody enters an event with us, we can then email them 5 times through the results-based company for free, and that's excellent advertising for us for future events. We also use MailChimp, which is if you've got up to 2,000 email subscribers, you can get a free MailChimp for, I think it's about 50,000 emails for the month. So you could send out 25 emails to 2,000 people quite easily a month for free with MailChimp. So again, that's a good little tool. I think Ian liked me to sort of put a little bit of a task to you. What I thought would keep it relevant to the current situation. And one of the major problems that we've got is obviously is the social distancing side of it. So generally we would have an event, we would have 400 or 500 people all going off at exactly the same time. Things would be much easier for us. Things would be much easier for the marshals because everybody knows that everyone's coming all at once. The setup is a lot easier, a lot smoother. What I'd like to sort of put to you is any ideas on how you could structure an event from the point of entry, which is with the results-based website, up to when that runner gets back in the car after the race. How could you keep those runners socially distanced, and how could you sell it to them initially, and also how on your risk assessment to the council, so we would have to usually do a risk assessment to the council, to the venue. So on that risk assessment, we have to cover how we are going to keep the runners at least 2 meters apart as much as possible, and how we're going to avoid any crowding. We're not allowed spectators currently at events, and all of the other parts of that. So if there was anything that I would like to get out from this is any new ideas that you might have on how we could sell events with current social distancing measures in place there. So if Ian wants me to come up with anything else, or if you've got any questions.
Hey, Dan, can you hear Ian?
No, I didn't hear that, sorry.
Why aren't we hearing him? Ian's mic's live. Sorry, we're having a slight battery issue. We'll be back with you in a second.
Can you hear me now, Dan?
Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. Sorry, my mic died. That's my fault. That'll be first. You should be able to hear. I've got a big mouth.
We know that.
Charming. Okay, my question was, Dan. Okay, obviously you've got your own gym, but what gave you the drive to go and set up your own events business, and what sort of skills do you think you had, but you've had to develop along the way?
I think the drive was the fact that I was getting to into my 40s, and personal training in car parks and then woodland wasn't going to let me retire at an early age. I think I was going to be doing that when I was 75. As much as still enjoy doing it, it's a hard slog. It's a young man's game, I think would be the phrase that my dad would use. So yeah, when I saw that opportunity through the Blaine race to set up, that's why I made the contacts through the Blaine race. Really, so I like to think that you know, I'm very approachable and likable, maybe. So the contacts I made through the race timing, the traffic management, the councils, the T-shirt suppliers, the medal suppliers, the volunteer base that we had, that was all in place there. And I think that I've always thought about, I'm always thinking, I think when you've been self-employed, I've never had a paycheck off anybody. You know, nobody's ever paid me anything. I had a little job when I was a 16-year-old, but since leaving university, I've always paid myself. So I've always been trying to think of new things. I'm always thinking of new things with the gym business and personal training, but I think I reached a level where I became a bit stale with it. When this came up, it seemed quite not an easy way to make money, but certainly from my experience and the contacts I've got, and I've been running for 30 years. I know a lot of people in the Northeast in the running scene. Then it came along, and it was too good to miss. And I think I've also got a hard work ethic. I've spent 22 years working in gyms, which is a hard slog. It's 6 a.m. in the morning. I'm not saying I work all day. I don't work all day, but we're locking up gyms at 8, 9 o'clock at night. I don't mind working hard. Weekend events at a weekend or take up a lot of time, but you know, very rewarding putting an event on. Ian, will back us up on this. Yeah. Very rewarding when you see an event come together. It's very, very satisfying. You know, I used to race and I used to enjoy racing, and there's nothing better than racing well yourself and being fit and well. But I think putting an event on and seeing people enjoy it and getting some, you know, really good feedback, which we've had so far. Obviously, you do get people who moan and complain. That's just life, and you do sometimes take it to heart. But you just got to sort of keep moving forward. The 95% of people are pleased with what you do. Sort of skills. You know, the obvious ones, you know, you've got to be prepared to put the work in. You've got to not let things get you down as much. Just keep driving with it. I think the relationships you build up along the way, you know, you should never sort of burn your bridges. You never know when you might need somebody. You should always try and keep people on board. You know, even if you don't agree with what they're saying and what they're doing. It's the Northeast is a small place, so you're always going to come across them again. Yeah, so I think that's probably about it. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, where do you? Obviously, you've grown in the number of events that you've been doing each year. You're talking about you would be up to 27. How many staff do you think you need? And obviously you rely on a lot of volunteering. So can you just tell the students a little bit about how you manage those staff and how you come about getting your volunteers?
Yeah, in terms of the staff, actually my 2 staff are my 2 sister-in-laws. So my wife has another job away from the business, but she helps out as much as she can. She's just part-time, but the 2 main staff are my 2 sister-in-laws. So yeah, they just work on a part-time basis because they have two children each, so they haven't got the full-time capacity. Volunteers for any event, no matter what size you are. I mean, the Great North Run is a multi-million-pound event in the Northeast. It makes a shed load of money for the business, and it makes a shed load of money for the charities, and it's been a massive success. But it relies on volunteers, and there's the people who volunteer for the Great North Run do it because they love the event. They don't care that the event organizer makes millions and the charities make millions. They're not interested. They just want to help because it's such a good event. And so I want to try and replicate that on a smaller scale as much as I can. So I like to, we have a set number of very reliable volunteers who tend to be sort of retired people who I don't say haven't got anything else to do, but they've got time on their hands and they enjoy coming to help out. They like me obviously, and they like the events, and they like being out in the trail environment, and they like being outdoors and seeing venues. So we're using venues like Lambton Castle on a week on Saturday, which is somewhere which you can't go to unless you're doing an event. they can't go to Lambton Castle look around. It says private estate. So those volunteers, we'll try and look after them as much as we can. So we'll always give them the food and the drink, which the runner would get. So if, for example, we use a place called Slaley Hall Hotel. So we organise bacon sandwiches and coffee for the volunteers as well as for the runners. So they would always get one of them. And then we try and give them some merchandise. So we'll give them a t-shirt, similar to this one. And we'll give them the event t-shirt if they want one. Or we've got hats and socks and jackets and things like that. So training t-shirts. So they'll take them. Some of them don't want anything. They're not interested. They'll have a coffee and they'll come and help you for 5 or 6 hours because they enjoy the event. And I think you've got to build up a relationship with those people. We went to a charity ball last year, so I took 10 of my volunteers to the ball. So it cost me £400, I think it was, for the table at the event. But and they got a meal and they got the event, which had a singer or something on, and that keeps those 10 people, in the loop and keeps them happy. So they come along to the event. I think the larger we get, this is going to become more and more difficult to achieve. And as we spread around the country as well, that'll become more difficult, and we're going to have to start using other avenues. So possibly the likes of the Scouts or local running clubs, or I know Ian used, is it what do you use for the triathlons?
Oh, I used, I have to think about that there. I used local canoe clubs.
There's the local clubs, yeah. So any sort of local clubs who may be interested. So generally, if there's a running club in the area, which there always tends to be, then you can use volunteers from those clubs if you give them something. So we're going to do a race at a castle in the northeast next year, and the local running club we've said would give £20 per volunteer for 20 volunteers. So it's going to cost us £400 for the volunteers, and that money will just go to the club, and then that'll help with the club day-to-day running of the club and the funds for the club. So it's cost me £400, but I'll get 20 volunteers, which is cheap labour really, but they'll enjoy it because they're runners and they just want to help out, and the club will be making something from that as well.
Okay, brilliant. If the students decide they wanted to go into entrepreneurship, which is basically what you've done, what advice would you give them in a COVID environment, a post-COVID environment?
I mean, entrepreneur 22 years ago, there wasn't, there obviously was entrepreneurs, but there seems to be an awful lot more people wanting to have their own business now, and certainly in the gym business, there's more and more personal trainers. There's more and more people want to have their own premises and they want to have their own thing, which is great, but it just makes things a lot more difficult, and it sort of dilutes things a little bit. So the market is difficult. I think in whichever field you want to go into, if you've got a chosen area, then as an entrepreneur, you've just got to try and open up doors, really. You've got to try and speak to the right people. You've got to allow people to knock you back a number of times. I've been knocked back lots of times by councils when I've been dealing with the gym business, or even with events, we've been knocked back for venues. You just got to try and keep on knocking on those doors and get those doors open, and just you've got to have a strong support team around you. So my wife and obviously her 2 sisters support my business, and they have done for sort of a long time, 15 years along the way. Parents who can help you out as well. But yeah, being an entrepreneur is quite not a lonely road, but you've got to be well driven. You've got to try and keep striving to progress. Don't do too much too soon. I think going back to the gym business, when I first started, within 5 years, we had 3 sites, and it was too much. I was only a 26-year-old. Having a business at 21 was great. I tried to go too big too soon, and that was probably part of not the downfall, because we've still got the original gym, but it was a lot to take on. So just grow organically if you can. I think the reason the events business has grown very quickly is because I can keep a track of the overheads. That's one of the major issues. There's a lot of event companies go bust very quickly, and I was just talking about this on Monday. I went to a new venue in Yorkshire, and they were talking about the Tough Mudder organisation, and that's been rebranded a number of times and come back under a different name a number of times because their overheads of the business are very, very high, and they keep going bust, and they have to keep rebranding. The Tough Mudder is very, very popular. You think, oh, well, it's a great business, but it's actually the overheads are too great, and they can't keep operating. So the reason why in the trail events that I've got, you can control the overheads very, very easily. If your site is a set cost, and you can work out your costs based on per runner, then you know exactly where you're at. So if you paid for a venue up front, regardless of numbers, chances are you're gonna lose out. If you can pay for a venue based per head, and t-shirt is per head, a medal is per head, the timing of the race is per head. If everything is per head, you know exactly where you are along the way, so you can price your price point initially. You know exactly where you want to be. You know how much you need to pay for a venue, how much you have available to pay for a venue. You know how much t-shirts are. You know how much medals are. So yeah, if you can keep it strict as you can early on. And a lot of businesses go bust because the owner pays themselves too much money. It's as simple as that. I've heard of a number of event businesses where, you know, they start taking a massive wage out straight away, and you know, you've got to earn that. You've got to spend time in the business. You've got to get a year or two's accounts before you start paying yourself well. And that's the advice I would give is to just try and grow organically. Don't go too big too soon. Keep your costs under control as much as possible. You know, there'll be more businesses go bust and keep growing, especially in the events business. But I think you've got to be adaptable for in the current climate. We're getting emails just this morning just saying, you know, thanks very much for trying to put these races on, and thanks for changing my race to a different one. You know, and it's not costing us any money to change them to a different race. So it's just time, it's just admin. It's you know, you've just got to try and think, well, we can't do the race this month because of lockdown. We'll just try and get on next month. We'll just try and keep it going and just keep on moving forward. You know, I'm sure I'll hit a wall at some point when I'm in my 60s where I'll think I can't keep moving forward anymore. But you know, if you just got to keep striving and driving.
Okay, that's brilliant, Dan. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Nope.
Okay, well, I'd like to thank you for your time this morning because I know you're quite busy and you
No
have
problem.
been getting up early in the chilly northeast weather. It's no warmer down here, believe you me. Okay, on behalf of the students, I'd like to say thank you for spending time talking to us this morning and sharing an insight of being an entrepreneur. And I'd like the students to say thank you as well, guys. Off you go.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, Dan, thanks a lot now. Thank you. Right, we're done. Okay, guys, well, that's it. Has anybody any questions? Questions about anything? Please, not Sal's. Okay, but I've started. Okay, it won't take too long, I hope, he says, last words. Okay, guys, well, that's it. That's the last of your student experience days. I thought you found them useful for coming, and you know, the last couple of speakers that we've been able to get for you guys and giving you an insight of different aspects of different things as well along the way. Other than that, obviously I'll see you in class Tuesday. Tuesday? Yeah, studies. But no, you got Paul Cook on Monday. I may flit in Paul's going to look after you on Monday because Paul, just to give you some idea, Paul's going to be assessing you as well when we do the presentations. It's just the format I might slightly change. You'll still stay at your times, you'll still be in your groups at the times you're doing it. It's just whether I'm going to create rooms for you just to go into, which I think might be a lot easier because it means that you can get together before we actually enter the room. So that's probably what I'm looking at. I've just got to set those rooms up, Gabal, that's all. Okay, guys, brilliant. You're finished. You can go early. Thanks a lot, guys. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. I forgot to thank you guys. Sorry about that.
I've got to get these on your activators so you can see them to mute it. Yeah, red and green. Yeah, red and green. Yeah.